Taemin Park adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time as he stood outside the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The polished metal reflected his calm face, showing no sign of the nervous energy that buzzed through the waiting area. Beside him, So-Young Kim checked her datapad for the third time in 10 minutes, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. "Ambassador, we have been waiting for 4 hours now," So-Young whispered, her voice barely audible in the vast hallway. The ceiling stretched high above them, decorated with symbols from hundreds of different alien worlds. Each symbol represented a species that had earned their place in the Galactic Council through centuries of diplomacy and trade. Tae-Min nodded slowly but said nothing. He had expected this delay. The message from Earth was clear. Humanity wanted full membership in the Galactic Council, not the limited associate status they had held for the past 50 years. This meeting would decide their future among the stars. Behind them, Captain Ji-Hai Kang shifted her weight from one foot to the other. She wore her military dress uniform, the blue fabric crisp and clean. Her job was simple: stay quiet and observe. The Council had requested that Earth bring a military representative, though they had not explained why. Dr. Hyen Wu Li stood near the back of their small group, his scientific metals catching the artificial light. He carried a case filled with data chips containing humanity's greatest achievements. New medicines, clean energy systems, and agricultural techniques that had helped dozens of worlds. Earth had contributed much to the galaxy, and today they hoped to be recognized for it. A soft chime echoed through the hallway. The massive doors began to slide open with a deep rumbling sound. Beyond them lay the council chamber, a circular room with seats arranged in rising circles. At the center sat a simple table with 4 chairs, one for each member of the human delegation. "The Galactic Council will now hear the petition from Earth," announced a mechanical voice from hidden speakers. Tae-Min led his team into the chamber. The sight took his breath away, even though he had seen it before through video recordings. 300 alien beings from across the galaxy sat in the curved rows of seats. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. Their eyes, those that had eyes, watched the humans with expressions, ranging from boredom to open curiosity. At the highest point of the chamber sat the Council's leadership. Chancellor Krixt H of the Veltari Empire dominated the center position. His blue-scaled head rose on a long neck, and his 4 arms moved in slow gestures as he spoke with other council members. To his right, High Consul Vexana of the Zephyrian Republic preened her silver feathers and looked down at the humans with obvious disdain. "Humans of Earth!" Chancellor Krixith's voice boomed through the chamber without need for amplification. His translator device rendered his words in perfect English. "You have requested an audience to discuss your status within our galactic community." Taemin stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Honorable Chancellor, respected council members, Earth is grateful for this opportunity. We come seeking full membership status, believing that our contributions over the past 50 years demonstrate our commitment to galactic peace and prosperity." A wave of what might have been laughter rippled through some sections of the chamber. Chancellor Krixt raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Your contributions," he said, his tone suggesting amusement. "Yes, let us discuss your contributions." He gestured to a floating display that appeared in the center of the chamber. Images of human activities across the galaxy flickered across the screen. "You grow food. You dig holes in the ground for minerals. You transport cargo from one world to another." More laughter from the assembled aliens. Taemin felt his jaw tighten but kept his expression neutral. "High Consul." Vexana spread her silver wings slightly as she spoke. "The Zephyrian Republic has observed human behavior for decades. You are a young species, barely capable of managing your own world, let alone contributing meaningfully to galactic governance." Trade Minister Klaxon, a being that resembled a walking tree with glowing bark, leaned forward in his seat. "Perhaps most concerning is your species' violent nature. Your history is filled with wars, conflicts, and destruction. Such primitive behavior has no place in civilized galactic society." So-Young Kim's hand moved slightly toward her datapad. But Taman caught her eye and shook his head almost imperceptibly. Not yet. Furthermore, Chancellor Crixt H. continued, your genetic structure is laughably inferior to most spacefaring species. Your lifespans are short, your physical capabilities limited, and your mental development ... He paused for effect. Well, adequate for simple tasks, we suppose? The insults continued for 20 minutes. Each council leader took turns describing humanity's shortcomings. They criticized human technology as crude, human culture as barbaric, and human intelligence as barely adequate for basic labor. Dr. Haiyan Wu. Lee's knuckles turned white as he gripped the handle of his case. Inside were the formulas for medicines that had saved millions of alien lives, energy systems that powered entire star systems, and agricultural techniques that had ended famines on a dozen worlds. None of the council members mentioned these achievements. Finally, Trade Minister Claxon delivered what seemed designed as the killing blow. Perhaps, he said, his bark-like skin glowing brighter with apparent amusement, humans would be better suited as entertainment for the more civilized species. Your primitive customs and simple thinking could provide hours of amusement for our children. The chamber erupted in laughter. Aliens of every description joined in the mockery. Some banged appendages against their seats, others made sounds that might have been applause. The noise continued for several minutes while the human delegation stood in silence at the center of it all. When the laughter finally died down, Chancellor Crixith looked directly at Taman. So, Human Ambassador, what is your response to our assessment? Taman Park looked up at the hundreds of alien faces surrounding him. He saw amusement, superiority, and dismissal in their expressions. For a moment, he felt the weight of representing not just Earth's government, but every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of their place among them. Then he smiled. It was a small, calm smile that never reached his eyes. Honorable Chancellor, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. Earth thanks the Galactic Council for their ... candid assessment of humanity's position. We will return to our homeworld to consider our status carefully. He turned to his delegation. We are finished here. Without another word, Taman Park led his team toward the chamber doors. Behind them, the alien leaders watched in surprise. They had expected anger, protests, or desperate pleas for reconsideration. Instead, they watched four humans walk away with quiet dignity. As the doors closed behind them, Chancellor Crixt leaned back in his seat. Well, that was easier than expected, he said to High Consul Vexana. Indeed, she replied, preening her feathers. Perhaps they finally understand their proper place in the galaxy. Neither of them noticed the small, satisfied smile that crossed Trade Minister Claxon's face. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you insulted humans. They just didn't know it yet. The human embassy ship Soul's Pride drifted silently through space, its hull reflecting the distant stars. Inside the main conference room, Ambassador Taman Park sat at the head of a long table, his fingers steepled as he listened to the angry voices of his team. They humiliated us, Captain Ji-Hai Kang said, her military training barely containing her fury. Every species in that chamber was laughing at humanity. We should file a formal protest. Dr. Haiyan Wu Li slammed his case of data chips onto the table. 50 years of contributions, Ambassador. 50 years of saving their lives, powering their worlds, feeding their people, and they called us primitive entertainers. So Young Kim pulled up holographic displays showing Earth's involvement across the galaxy. Trade routes, medical stations, agricultural colonies, mining operations. The blue lines connecting human facilities created a web that spanned thousands of light years. The data doesn't lie, she said quietly. Human operations touch every major trade route in this sector. We're involved in the economies of 237 worlds. Taman nodded slowly, then reached for his communication device. The others fell silent as he activated the quantum link to Earth. The signal would take several minutes to reach home, but his message was simple. Earth Command, this is Ambassador Park. The Galactic Council has rejected our application for full membership. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol Silence. Begin total withdrawal from all galactic activities. We are coming home. 3 days later, Admiral Dong-hyuk Choi stood in the war room beneath Seoul, surrounded by holographic displays showing human activities across the galaxy. President Min-ae Chun sat at the center of the room, her face calm as she listened to the reports streaming in from every corner of human space. Madam President, Admiral Choi began, Ambassador Park's report confirms what our intelligence suspected. The Galactic Council views humanity as useful servants, nothing more. They have no intention of treating us as equals. President Chun touched a control on her chair, and the displays around them changed. Instead of showing human trade routes and colonies, they now displayed withdrawal schedules and evacuation plans. How long will it take? She asked. 6 months for complete withdrawal, replied Economic Advisor Nam Sik-o, stepping forward with his own datapad, but the effects will be felt much sooner. We've identified critical supply chains that will begin failing within weeks. Dr. Hyeon-woo Lee, who had returned to Earth aboard the Soul's Pride, activated another display. Our medical supplies alone support 43 different species. The agricultural seeds we developed are used on 67 worlds. Without human maintenance, their crop yields will drop by 70% within one growing season. Intelligence? Chief Baek-young-yoon moved to the center of the room. Madam President, the aliens don't realize how dependent they've become on human innovation. They see us as simple farmers and miners, but our people have been quietly improving every system they touch. The President stood and walked to the main display, which showed a real-time map of the galaxy. Blue dots marked human facilities, green. Lines showed trade routes, and red indicators displayed worlds that depended on human support. Begin the withdrawal, she said simply. All human personnel, facilities, and operations return to Earth space immediately. Send a message to the Galactic Council informing them that humanity is focusing on internal development. What about our allies? Asked Admiral Choi. The Centauri Federation and the Free Colonies have been trading partners for decades. They stood silent while we were humiliated, President Chun replied. If they want our friendship, they can prove it by approaching us directly. We're done begging for acceptance. The next morning, human facilities across the galaxy received the same message. Pack up, shut down, come home. No explanations, no gradual phase-out, no training for replacements. Human ships began leaving their positions and heading toward Earth space in the largest migration in galactic history. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Supervisor Woo Jin Lim watched as his crews loaded the last transport ship. The alien overseers stood nearby, confused by the sudden evacuation. "Where are you going?" asked Supervisor Kluxini, his insect-like features twitching with anxiety. "The mining contract runs for another 5 years. Woo Jin handed him a datapad with the official termination notice. Earth is focusing on internal development. The contract is terminated as of today. But who will operate the extraction equipment? Your people designed these systems. I'm sure you'll figure something out, Woo Jin replied, boarding the transport. Behind him, the massive mining complex sat silent. The alien workers had no idea how to operate the human-designed machinery. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On the agricultural world of New Eden, botanist Yunbai Cho supervised the removal of the seed banks and genetic libraries that had made the planet's crop yields possible. The local government begged her to stay, offering double wages and better housing. It's not about money, she explained to Governor Zeftal as she sealed the last container. Earth has decided to focus on internal development. But without your seeds, our harvest will fail. Millions will starve. Yunbai paused at the transport door. Perhaps you should have thought of that before allowing your council to insult our species. Medical stations across the galaxy faced similar evacuations. Dr. Young-ya Shin, who had spent 15 years developing treatments for alien diseases, packed her research with quiet efficiency. The alien doctors who had worked alongside her watched in growing panic. The Rigelian plague will return without your antiviral compounds, Dr. Vexplon pleaded. Thousands died before you developed the cure. Then you'd better learn to make it yourselves, Dr. Young-Ya replied. Sealing her laboratory for the final time, back on Earth, the returnees brought disturbing news. Trade negotiator Sujin Han presented her findings to the Emergency Council. The aliens have no backup plans. They've become completely dependent on human innovation without realizing it. How is that possible? Asked President Chun. We've been too good at our jobs, Sujin explained. When humans take over a system, we improve it so much that everyone forgets how it worked before. The mining equipment that extracts rare metals, human-designed. The agricultural systems that prevent famines, human-developed. The medical compounds that cure diseases, human-created. Strategic analyst Jae-Sung Ko added his assessment. They see us as servants because we made their lives so much easier that they forgot we were essential. We became invisible through our own competence. 3 weeks after the withdrawal began, the first reports of system failures reached the Galactic Council. Mining operations on 12 worlds had shut down when alien. Workers couldn't operate human equipment. Agricultural yields were dropping as modified crops failed without human-supplied nutrients. Chancellor Crixith read the reports with growing irritation. These humans are being petulant, he declared to the emergency session. Send a message, demanding they return to their duties immediately. High Consul Vexana preened her feathers nervously. Perhaps we should offer them some minor concessions. Associate membership with additional privileges. Absolutely not, Trade Minister Claxon interrupted. We cannot show weakness to a primitive species. They will return when they realize they need galactic trade more than we need them. The message sent to Earth was brief and demanding. The Galactic Council required immediate resumption of human activities. Failure to comply would result in trade sanctions and possible military action. Earth's response came back within hours, transmitted on all galactic communication frequencies so every species could hear it. The Galactic Council's message has been received. Earth appreciates their concern but remains focused on internal development. We wish all galactic species success in their future endeavors. Chancellor Crixith crushed the message display with one of his 4 hands. Arrogant primitives. They'll come crawling back within a month. But as the weeks passed and the system failures multiplied, some council members began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The galaxy was discovering. What happened when the people they had dismissed as simple servants decided they no longer wanted to serve? 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared from galactic society, and the effects were spreading like ripples through still water. On the agricultural world of Kepler 442b, Governor Meltax stood in what had once been the planet's most productive farming region. The golden crops that had fed 3 star systems now withered in brown, dying fields. How long before complete crop failure? He asked his agricultural minister, trying to keep the desperation from his voice. Minister Velkrin consulted his datapad with trembling fingers. 2 weeks, maybe 3? The human-modified seeds need specific nutrients that we cannot produce. We have tried substitutes, but nothing works. Behind them, alien farmers worked frantically in the dying fields. They had operated the equipment for years, but always under human guidance. Now, without the steady supply of Earth-produced fertilizers and genetic supplements, their crops were reverting to wild strains that produced a fraction of the food. Contact the Galactic Council again, Governor Meltax ordered. Tell them we need those humans back, or millions will starve. Similar reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The mining operations on Proxima Centauri b had been shut down for 6 weeks. The human-designed extraction equipment sat silent and useless. Local engineers had tried to restart the systems, but every attempt ended in costly failures. Mine Supervisor Klexwin stared at the massive machines that had pulled rare metals from deep underground for decades. The humans made it look so easy, he muttered to his assistant. Push a few buttons, monitor some displays. How hard could it be? The answer was impossibly hard. The extraction process required constant adjustments that only humans seemed to understand. Without their expertise, the expensive equipment was nothing more than elaborate sculptures, On the medical research station orbiting Vega Prime, the situation had grown critical. The Rigelian plague had returned with a vengeance, spreading through the Outer Rim colonies faster than anyone had expected. Dr. Zefkal, the station's chief researcher, worked desperately to recreate the human-developed cure. "We have the formula," he told his team during their daily crisis meeting. "We know the chemical composition. Why can't we synthesize it?" His assistant, Dr. Molina, pulled up the molecular display. The humans used compounds from Earth's biosphere, plants and microorganisms that exist nowhere else in the galaxy. We can create synthetic versions, but they don't work the same way. "How many dead this week?" Dr. Zefkal asked quietly. 43,000. The plague is spreading to core worlds now. Meanwhile, on the trade hub of Station Omega 7, Commerce Director Vexilla watched her screens with growing horror. The galactic economy was collapsing one sector at a time. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades were breaking down as key supply chains failed. "The Centauri Federation is reporting food shortages," her aide announced. "The free colonies are experiencing power failures across 17 worlds. The Zephyrian Republic has lost 60% of their luxury goods market." Vexilla studied the economic projections. "How is this possible? Humans were only involved in basic industries. Food production, mining, simple manufacturing." "That's what we all thought," her aide replied. "But the analysts are saying humans were involved in the foundation of everything. They didn't just grow food, they created the genetic modifications that made high-yield crops possible. They didn't just mine metals, they designed the equipment that made deep extraction profitable." The reports continued streaming in. The beautiful crystal cities of Altair Prime were going dark as their power systems failed. The underwater colonies of Aquatica were running out of breathable air as their atmospheric processors broke down. The luxury resort worlds that catered to the galaxy's elite were closing as their sophisticated climate control systems malfunctioned. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were becoming daily events. Chancellor Crixith's blue scales had dulled with stress, and his forearms moved in agitated gestures as he reviewed the latest crisis reports. "Surely some species can replace human capabilities," he insisted to the assembled ministers. "We have advanced civilizations throughout the galaxy." Trade Minister Claxon's bark-like skin had lost its healthy glow. "We have tried, Chancellor." The Altarians attempted to restart mining operations on 6 worlds. 4 resulted in environmental disasters. The vegan collective tried to synthesize human medical compounds. Their patients died. High Consul Vexana preened her silver feathers nervously. "Perhaps we underestimated their contributions. The Zephyrian Republic is facing internal rebellion as our economy collapses. Our people are demanding answers." "Then find alternatives," Chancellor Crixith roared. "We cannot allow a primitive species to hold the galaxy hostage through their absence." But the alternatives didn't exist. For 50 years, humans had quietly become the backbone of galactic civilization. They had taken over basic industries and improved them so dramatically that everyone forgot how things worked before. When they left, they took irreplaceable knowledge with them. On Earth, Intelligence Chief Baekyoung Yoon presented her weekly report to President Min-ae Chun. The main screen showed a real-time map of galactic crisis zones with red indicators spreading, like an infection across the star chart. 17 more worlds have requested emergency aid, she reported. All through intermediaries since they're afraid to contact us directly. The Galactic Council has forbidden direct communication with Earth. President Chun studied the data with satisfaction. "What about our people? Any regrets about leaving?" "Quite the opposite, Madam President. Morale is higher than it's been in decades. Our citizens feel pride instead of resentment for the first time in years. They're working on new projects, exploring new technologies, building a future that doesn't depend on alien approval." Strategic analyst Jae-Sung Ko stepped forward with his assessment. "The psychological impact has been as important as the practical. 1. For decades, our people worked to gain acceptance from species that saw them as inferior. Now they're working for themselves. and the results are remarkable. Dr. Haiyang-Wu Li added his scientific perspective. Our research programs have accelerated dramatically. Without the need to share discoveries with ungrateful aliens, our scientists are making breakthroughs at record speed. We may emerge from this isolation decades ahead of where we would have been as Galactic Council members. The reports from space. Monitoring stations painted a clear picture. Alien ships approached Earth's borders daily, broadcasting desperate pleas for aid. Food shipments, medical supplies, technical assistance, the requests never stopped. But Earth's response remained the same, automated messages stating that humanity was focused on internal development. Captain Wu Jin-Lim, monitoring the border, from Deep Space Station Alpha, watched another alien convoy approach. Looks like a medical emergency, he reported to Earth Command. Centauri Federation markings. They're broadcasting distress signals about some kind of pandemic. Standard response, came the reply from Admiral Dong-Hyuk Choi. Direct them to? Contact the Galactic Council for assistance. Sir, their message indicates the Council can't help them. They specifically mention needing human-developed treatments. Not our problem, Captain. Maintain the border. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the daily crisis meeting had become a daily disaster report. Species after species reported system failures, economic collapse, and social unrest. The proud civilizations that had mocked humanity 3 months earlier were discovering they couldn't function without the primitive species they had dismissed. Chancellor Crixeth listened to the latest report from the Vegan Collective. 30 worlds were facing starvation as their modified crops failed. The death toll was climbing into the millions. Has there been any response to our diplomatic overtures? He asked weakly. Foreign Minister Yextel shook his massive head. The humans maintain complete silence. They accept no communications, allow no visits, and refuse all offers of negotiation. It's as if they've decided we no longer exist. High Consul Vexana ruffled her feathers in distress. My intelligence networks report that human space is buzzing with activity. They're building something, but our sensors can't penetrate their borders to determine what. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about taking people for granted. The quiet, efficient humans who had made everyone's lives better were gone, and their absence left a void that no one could fill. The species that had called them primitive entertainers were discovering that the entertainers had been keeping the show running all along, and in their silence, the humans were building something new. 6 months after their withdrawal from galactic society, humanity was far from idle. Deep in the void between galaxies where no alien sensors could reach, massive construction projects stretched across empty space. Chief Engineer Kyung-ho Seo floated in his environmental suit, watching robotic workers assemble structures that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. How many stations are operational? He asked his assistant through the comlink. 47 production facilities, 12 research stations, and 6 shipyards, came the reply. The new fusion reactors are exceeding all performance expectations. We're producing energy at levels that would power entire star systems. Kyung-ho smiled inside his helmet. While the galaxy struggled with failing infrastructure, humanity had spent 6 months building the most advanced industrial complex in known space. Automated factories produced goods that surpassed anything aliens had imagined possible. The species that had called humans primitive would have been stunned by what they were achieving in secret. On Research Station Gamma, Dr. Yunbai Cho made another breakthrough in dimensional manipulation. Her team had been working around the clock, free from the restrictions and oversight that had limited their research for decades. The field generators are stable, she reported to Earth Command. We can create pocket dimensions large enough to hide entire fleets. The stealth applications alone would revolutionize space warfare. But warfare wasn't the primary goal. Dr. Yunbai's research was focused on exploration and expansion. Humanity was preparing to explore regions of space that other species couldn't even detect. They would build new worlds in hidden dimensions, create resources from quantum energy, and establish a civilization that didn't depend on anyone else. Admiral Seonmi Kim coordinated the largest, Military buildup in human history from her command. Ship, the new soul. But these weren't weapons of conquest. They were tools of independence. Every ship in the growing fleet was designed for exploration, defense, and the protection of human interests. Fleet status report, she requested from her tactical officer. 1,000 ships completed, Admiral. Another 500 in final. Construction phases. The new propulsion systems allow faster-than-light travel without using established jump points. We can go anywhere in the galaxy without alien detection. The tactical implications were staggering. For centuries, space travel had been limited to known jump points that were monitored and controlled by various alien governments. Human ships could now bypass those restrictions entirely, opening up unlimited exploration possibilities. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, a different kind of revolution was taking place. Xenorchaeologist Dayun Park made a discovery that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Deep in the archives of returned human facilities, she found evidence that shocked the scientific community. President Chun, she said during an emergency briefing, we need to discuss what our people found in alien ruins during their 50 years in space. The holographic display showed archaeological sites from dozens of worlds. Ancient structures, mysterious artifacts, and technological remnants that predated known galactic civilization. What am I looking at? President Chun asked. Evidence that humans aren't native to Earth, Dayun replied quietly. These artifacts contain genetic markers, technological signatures, and cultural elements that match human patterns. Our ancestors were spacefaring long before recorded history. The implications sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. Strategic analyst Jae-Sung Ko pulled up comparative data that supported Dayun's findings. It explains everything, he said, excitement clear in his voice. Why humans adapt so quickly to space environments. Why our technology integrates so seamlessly with alien systems. Why we've been able to improve every process we touch. We're not primitive newcomers, we're returning to our original home, Dr. Haiyan Wu Li added his analysis. The genetic modifications we've made to crops, the medical compounds we've synthesized, the engineering solutions we've developed, they're not innovations, they're recovered memories. Our species has been here before. This revelation reframed humanity's entire relationship with the galaxy. They weren't seeking acceptance from advanced civilizations. They were reclaiming their birthright. From species that had inherited human achievements and forgotten their source, the evidence was overwhelming. Ancient star maps found in human-designed facilities showed navigation routes that predated alien space travel by millennia. Medical databases contained treatments for diseases that shouldn't exist yet, but did, suggesting humans had encountered them before. Engineering blueprints revealed design principles that exceeded current alien understanding. How is this possible? President Chun asked during a closed session with her top advisors. Xenorchaeologist Dayun presented her theory. Sometime in the distant past, humanity was a major galactic power. Something happened, war, natural disaster, unknown catastrophe, that forced human survivors to retreat to Earth. Over thousands of years, we lost our memories of space civilization, but the knowledge remained, added Dr. Haiyan Wu Li. Buried in our genetic code, preserved in our cultural patterns, waiting to be rediscovered. When we returned to space 50 years ago, we weren't learning new things. We were remembering old ones. Intelligence Chief Baekyoung Yoon provided the final piece of the puzzle. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected something else. The alien civilizations that dominate the galaxy today, their founding technologies all show human influence. They didn't develop space travel independently, they reverse-engineered human artifacts. The galaxy's great civilizations were built on the ruins of human achievement. The Veltari Empire's advanced metallurgy came from human mining techniques. The Zephyrian Republic's energy systems were based on human fusion technology. The medical knowledge that supported dozens of species originated from human biological research. They called us primitive, President Chun said with bitter irony. But their entire civilization is built on our foundations. This discovery changed humanity's approach to the crisis entirely. They weren't abandoning galactic society, they were reclaiming it. The infrastructure failures affecting alien worlds weren't coincidental. Every system that was failing had been improved by humans during their 50 years in space. When they left, they took back knowledge that the aliens had never truly understood. Trade negotiator Su Jin Han presented the economic analysis. 60% of galactic infrastructure depends on technologies that humans developed or improved. But the aliens never learned the underlying principles. They just copied our procedures without understanding the science. Like children playing with adults' tools, Admiral Dong Yuk Choi observed. Exactly. And now the adults have taken their tools back. The construction projects in deep space took on new meaning. Humanity wasn't building new infrastructure. They were rebuilding their ancient empire with modern improvements. The ships, stations, and technologies being created exceeded anything the current galaxy could produce because they were based on recovered human knowledge that had been accumulated over millennia. Captain Wu Jin Lim reported from the border monitoring stations. Alien activity near our space has increased dramatically. They're sending archaeological expeditions to abandoned human sites, clearly looking for more artifacts. Too little, too late, replied Intelligence Chief Bae Kyung-yoon. We've already recovered everything important. Our teams have been quietly collecting human artifacts for 50 years. We have genetic samples, technological blueprints, and cultural records that span thousands of years of human space civilization. The galaxy was facing a crisis that went beyond simple infrastructure failure. The foundation of their civilization was crumbling because it had never truly belonged to them. They were caretakers of human achievements, and now the rightful owners were back. Dr. Yunbai Cho's dimensional research revealed the ultimate truth. The ancient humans didn't just travel through normal space, she explained to the assembled leadership. They had access to dimensional technology that allowed them to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. The artifacts we found aren't just old, they're from parallel versions of our own civilization. Humanity's withdrawal from galactic society wasn't retreat, it was preparation. They were remembering who they had always been, reclaiming technologies that were rightfully theirs, and preparing to resume their place as the galaxy's true architects. The aliens who had mocked them as primitive entertainers were about to discover that they had been living in a house built by the people they had insulted. And now those people were coming home. 1 year after the Great Insult, the Galactic Council chambers bore little resemblance to the proud assembly that had mocked humanity. Half the seats sat empty as entire civilizations had collapsed into chaos. Those delegates who remained looked haggard and desperate, their once proud appearances diminished by months of crisis. Chancellor Crixith had lost weight, his blue scales dull and cracked from stress. His forearms moved weakly as he called the emergency session to order. Around him, the surviving leaders of galactic civilization waited with barely concealed desperation. We face the greatest crisis in galactic history, he began, his voice lacking its former authority. 17 major civilizations have experienced complete societal collapse. Trade has dropped to pre-space levels. Billions have died from starvation, disease, and system failures. High Consul Vexana's silver feathers were molted and patchy. The Zephyrian Republic she once ruled with pride had fractured into warring territories fighting over dwindling resources. The situation cannot continue, she said quietly. We must reconsider our position regarding humanity. Trade Minister Claxon S. bark-like skin had turned gray with disease. Without human-developed treatments, a blight was slowly killing his entire species. Pride is a luxury we can no longer afford, he admitted. We need the humans back. The formal apology took 3 days to write. Every word was debated, every phrase examined for the proper tone of humility. The message that had once dismissed humans as primitive entertainers now begged for their return with language that bordered on worship, but sending the apology was only the first step. Getting it to Earth required navigating the impenetrable barrier that humanity had placed around their space. For months, alien ships had been turned away by automated systems that politely but firmly redirected all traffic. Finally, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Centauri Federation, which had maintained neutral relations with both sides, agreed to carry the Council's message. Ambassador Taemin Park had specifically requested that any communication come through the Centaurians, as they had abstained. From the vote that led to humanity's humiliation, the response came back within hours. But it wasn't what the Council expected. Instead of accepting their apology, humanity simply agreed to meet. The location would be the same Council chambers where the insult had occurred. The time would be exactly 1 year after Ambassador Taemin Park had walked away in silence. When the day arrived, the remaining Council members waited with nervous energy. The chamber felt enormous with so many empty seats. Those species that still function had sent their highest-ranking officials, understanding that this meeting would determine the galaxy's future. The massive doors opened with their familiar rumble, but what emerged was not the small, humble delegation the aliens remembered. Ambassador Taemin Park entered first, but he was followed by Admiral Dong-hyuk Choi in full military dress. Behind them came Dr. In-soo-yu, representing President Min-ae-chun, and a security detail that moved with precision that spoke of advanced training, but it was what they could see through the chamber's viewports that truly shocked the assembled aliens. Human ships hung in space around the station, not the small diplomatic vessels they remembered, but massive warships that dwarfed anything in the galactic fleet. The vessels moved with technology that seemed to bend space around them, appearing and disappearing in ways that violated known physics. Ambassador Taemin Park took his place at the center of the chamber, just as he had 1 year earlier. But this time his bearing was different. Gone was the diplomatic deference. He stood like a man representing equals, not seeking approval. "Honorable Council members," he began, his voice carrying easily through the reduced assembly. "Earth has received your message and appreciates your new perspective on humanity's role in galactic affairs." Chancellor Crixith leaned forward desperately. "Ambassador Park, the galaxy is dying without human contributions. We were wrong to dismiss your species. We formally apologize for our words and actions." "Your apology is noted," Taemin replied calmly. "However, the past year has been quite educational for humanity. We've learned some interesting things about our history and our capabilities." Dr. In-soo-yu stepped forward and activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The images showed ancient ruins from across the galaxy, all bearing unmistakable human architectural signatures. "It seems," Dr. In-soo said conversationally, "that humanity has been in space much longer than any of us realized. These structures predate your civilizations by thousands of years." The display changed to show technological analyses, genetic markers, engineering principles, and scientific methodologies, all matching human patterns, all discovered in the foundations of major alien civilizations. "Your space travel, your energy systems, your medical knowledge," Dr. In-soo continued, "all based on human innovations that you've forgotten came from us. When you called us primitive, you were insulting the architects of your own civilization." "Hi." Consul Vexana's remaining feathers ruffled with shock. "That's impossible. Our histories show independent development." "Your histories show what you wanted to believe," Admiral Dong-hyuk Choi interjected. "The evidence is overwhelming. Humanity didn't join galactic civilization 50 years ago. We returned to it." The implications struck the alien leaders like physical blows. They weren't advanced species graciously allowing primitives to serve them. They were the inheritors of human achievements, living at a house they hadn't built. Ambassador Taemin let the revelation sink in before continuing. "During our year of internal development, we've recovered much of our lost heritage. Our scientists have made breakthrough after breakthrough, not by inventing new things, but by remembering old ones." Trade specialist Hae-jin No presented the economic data. "Every system that failed when we left was based on human innovations that you never truly understood. You copied our procedures without learning the underlying principles. When we withdrew, Our knowledge, your civilizations collapsed. The desperation in the chamber was palpable. These proud species that had laughed at human pretensions were learning they had been living on borrowed achievements all along. What do you want from us? Chancellor Crix asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Respect, Ambassador Taemin, replied simply, true partnership. An end to the condescending attitudes and dismissive treatment. If you want human knowledge to return to the galaxy, humanity must be treated as an equal founding member of galactic civilization. But you already have that, Trade Minister Claxon protested weakly. You were associate members with full trading rights. Associate members? Admiral Choi repeated with cold amusement. Junior partners. Grateful servants allowed to participate in the civilization we built. That arrangement is no longer acceptable. Dr. Insu activated another display showing humanity's recent achievements, technologies that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Ships that could travel faster than thought possible, weapons that could reshape reality itself, medical treatments that could extend life for centuries. We've spent the year rebuilding our capabilities, he explained. Not from scratch, but by recovering our birthright. The galaxy has two choices: accept humanity as equal partners in a reformed galactic structure, or continue struggling with the fragments of our civilization that you managed to preserve. The terms were presented with calm finality. Humanity would return to galactic society, but only as full equals. The Galactic Council would be restructured with human representation proportional to their contributions. All discriminatory policies would be eliminated. Species that had participated in the humiliation would make formal reparations. And if we refuse? High Consul Vexana asked, though her voice held no real defiance. Then you continue as you have, Ambassador Taemin replied. We've built our own civilization now. We don't need the galaxy's acceptance anymore. We're offering partnership because we believe cooperation benefits everyone. The vote was unanimous. Even species that harbored resentment recognized they had no choice. The galaxy needed human knowledge to survive, and humanity was offering it on terms that were generous considering the circumstances. Chancellor Crix formally announced the restructure of galactic government. Humanity would hold a permanent seat on the ruling council. Human colonies would receive full sovereign status. The technologies that had once been taken for granted would be properly credited to their creators. As the session concluded, Ambassador Taemin Park stood once again in the center of the chamber. But this time, instead of walking away in silence, he smiled with genuine warmth. The galaxy is stronger when all species work together as equals, he said. Humanity looks forward to building a better future with our partners. The word partners carried weight that hadn't existed a year earlier. The species that had once mocked humans as primitive entertainers now understood they were dealing with the galaxy's true architects. The insult that was meant to put humanity in its place had instead revealed their rightful position at the center of galactic civilization. Outside the viewports, human ships moved in perfect formation, their advanced technology a visible reminder of what the galaxy had almost lost through arrogance and prejudice. The quiet species that had been dismissed as servants had returned.